Hey everyone, this is Sarah. Welcome to my stream. Today we are going to be doing crochet. We're on lesson number 2. So last week we talked about the supplies and the basics of crochet. I also taught you how to do single crochet. I'm going to actually go over that again this week because I feel like that's something that it takes a lot of practice. It's the very first stitch that you learn. And so it's going to give you the foundation for all of the other stitches and everything else that we do in this class. So welcome. All right. So here I've got some stuff. You see, not as much stuff as last week. But all right. So last week I talked about all of the different supplies you need. I'm not going to talk about those again today. I am going to be using a size H hook, which is a 5mm, and that matches the yarn that I have, which is a worsted weight, size 4. And if you remember, let's see where this is, right here, that's where you can see what size to use, and see this actually recommends a size 5. My mom reminded me that she actually, I think maybe even mentioned it in chat, that I had used this specific color to make a hat for her. So this is the hat that I made for her out of this. So you can see like how this translates. So here I've got a ponytail on, so anyway, cute. It's like a little cloche. So anyway, I made this. I think I might have used a pattern for this. Oh, and that's the other thing. I'm going to go over patterns today because, you know, you want to know how to read a pattern. So I'm going to do that. But I wanted to show you this little hat that I made. And this has like an interesting thing down at the bottom here, like a design. So that's what made this hat really interesting, was this design. All right, so I'm going to put that to the side. Take another sip of water. I also have scissors, which I didn't mention last week, but you know, you want to have some scissors around, and some people may not know that this is important, but when you have scissors, it's important to get fabric scissors, which are sharper than other scissors, and only use them for fabric. You might be tempted to use them to cut some tape or scissors or just something, paper. I mean, I said scissors, I meant paper really quickly, but try to resist the temptation, because you don't want to dull them, and so use your fabric scissors only for scissors. Now these are technically embroidery scissors, which are also pretty sharp. They're just a lot smaller. They're not quite as large as fabric scissors. So I like these because they fit inside this little case. So okay, I believe actually it's actually possible that I might have gotten these as hair scissors, like at a beauty supply store, because hair scissors are really good too, because if you think about it, our hair is fiber, you know, so it does cut very similar. So hair cutting scissors are actually pretty sharp too, and sometimes they're cheaper. So, you know, but they're usually smaller. Okay, so I've got 2 hooks of the same size here. This is the ergonomic one, and I only have it out to show you. I'm going to actually use this one so as to be less confusing. But it's ergonomic, meaning that it's got this nice rubber case, easy to hold and grip. So these are nice to work with, especially if you're doing a very large project. I highly recommend those. Okay, but I'm going to put that to the side because I'm not using it. Now you notice that I have another hook here, and I've got like my little set of hooks. I'm not going to be using anything in here. I just have it out to show you, but I'm going to put that to the side. I do have a size 6mm here. You can see. Oops. There we go. 6mm. The reason I have this is because, as I mentioned last week, for beginners, when you are first learning how to crochet, I highly recommend going one size up from whatever size you're using. Since I'm using a 5mm, I'm going to use the 6. Going one size up because that will, it helps you with your tension. Because when you're first starting out, your tension is probably going to be very tight. Now your tension is basically how small all of the little all the little loops that you make, how small those are, or how tight against this, against your hook, that's your tension. And like I said, beginners are almost always very tight, unless you are just naturally a very relaxed person. I personally am not. And so I had to use this technique to start out with, and that is just to start with one size up. Okay, so let's get started. Last week I talked about pulling out your yarn. I recommend you pull it out from the middle. And now I already had this started because this is the same yarn I used last week. And you can see I've pulled it apart. So it's very nice. That's what's really great about this yarn. Oh, there's a little knot in here. I'm just going to cut this out. No sense in starting with knots. Okay. So crochet is very easy to pull apart. Knitting, not so much. So knitting, every time I've ever tried to pull it apart, it's not that it doesn't pull apart. It's just, first of all, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, which can be very devastating sometimes. Like if you've made mistakes all throughout, it's easier just to go back to the beginning. It's very difficult. You can pick up stitches, and at some point I'll probably do knitting on this stream, and I can show you how to do all of the troubleshooting with knitting. But I prefer crochet because you can undo just a little bit, you know, get back and restart. And in fact, one of my viewers sent me a picture. I know her personally, so she texted me a picture of her crochet piece from last week, and she said that she was having trouble with it. It was going in, you know, like her scarf was actually getting narrower. And what it was is it looked like she was just missing that very last stitch that I talked about, and I'll point that out again today. So when I corrected her, you know, I just texted her back and said, this is what I think you're doing. About 20-25 minutes later, I get another picture from her, and it was completely corrected. 20-25 minutes, that's not very long for her to go all the way back, you know, and find where she started kind of going awry and fixing it. So this is why I like crochet. It's very easy to undo, redo, and just generally be kind of free form with it. Like you can make things up as you go, whereas with knitting, it's a little bit more complicated. So like I said, someday I will do knitting on this stream. I do enjoy it. I just enjoy crochet more. So welcome to the stream. If you are new to joining me, hopefully you have some of the supplies. And for this week, we just need yarn, and you need the correct size needle. I highly recommend going with the medium yarn, medium needle, which is a size 5mm. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So pull from the middle, and the easiest way to do this, sometimes it's right at the outside, but the easiest way is just to pull out a chunk, find your end, and then push that chunk back in. That's the easiest way. All right, now I always get a good amount of slack going. So all that means is just pull some out. Okay. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a slip knot. Okay. So let's see. So if you were in my stream last week, you should remember that the first thing we're going to do is make an X. Now this is going to loop. So we make an X like that. Now whichever side is on top, it's this side, whichever side is on top is going to actually make a little loop and come under the middle of that little circle that we made at the top. So see, he's poking his little head underneath. You're going to grab that loop, grab the two bottoms, like both sides of the yarn here. You can put your thumb in it if you want and just pull. And that's going to create a little knot. Now, it's called a slip knot because you can bloop, slip it right out. All right, so we're going to try that again. Now I'm going to do this from the other side this time. So depending on which way you twist it, depends on which way is on top. So this side's on top now. So I'm just going to make a little loop. I'm going to lift up the circle and come underneath it So I'm grabbing this, and then I'm going to grab both sides and pull. It doesn't really matter which side you go. So you can go either side. It's not a problem. I'm going to do that one more time because slip knot, this is very important. All right. So I'm going to loop. So I make like an X. I just twist it. All I'm doing is just twisting the yarn. And so now it makes this little X here with this loop at the top. This side is on top. So whichever side's on top, you make your loop. Go underneath that circle and grab your loop. And then you're going to take both the tail, this is called the tail, this little part, and this is called your working yarn because it's coming from the actual yarn, the skein, and then you just pull your loop. And there you go, you've got your slip knot. So I'm going to keep this on my finger and I'm going to just pull the two sides apart and it will slip that right on up to my finger. Okay? Now, all right, so now we're going to go ahead and get started and we're going to do what's called our foundation chain. Now, remember I said I recommended that you use one size up. So I'm going to start for my foundation chain. I'm going to start with my 6mm. So I'll put the 6mm through the loop. So this is called the loop. And remember, this is your tail, the part that's not going anywhere. And then this is your working yarn. Okay, so the working yarn is what comes from the skein. These are called skeins when it's one ball like this, ball or a skein. Okay, so I'm going to tighten this, but notice that there's a part of my hook that gets smaller. I want to tighten it around the fatter part. Because you want it to, when you get over here, to have some room. See how there's like a hole there? You want to have some room so that you can get down in there. Okay. Now we're going to make our foundation chain. Water. Got to hydrate. I'm in Florida, so it's hot. All right. So I do what I call trading pinches. All right, so I'm going to pinch the yarn with my right thumb. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be showing you how to do this right-handed. If you are left-handed, you are literally going to do exactly the opposite. If I say pinch with your right hand, you just pinch with your left hand. If I say that your hook should be facing to the left, your hook should be facing to the right. So forth and so on. It is exactly the same thing, just opposite. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be pinching it. It's facing left, and I'm pinching with my right. The tail, we don't worry about the tail. I'm just cupping this in my hand so it's out of the way. All right. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do something called a yarn over. That means I go behind, always come from behind. You're going to go behind and forward, like that. That's called a yarn over, okay? So you've got your yarn coming out, your working yarn. You're going to come from behind and yarn over. All right. Now, we want to get it through this hole, which means that we've got to let go of it. So we are going to pinch it with I'm trading pinches, okay? So we're going to pinch it with the left hand so that we can move our right hand, so that we can use our right hand to move the hook. So what I'm doing is I'm actually pinching right where that knot is in the that slip knot. So I'm turning. Notice that I'm turning my hook just a little bit when it gets to here, so that it can slip inside the loop. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. So I'm holding this with my thumb. I'm going to yarn over, trade thumbs, and then pull it through that hole. Hold it with your thumb, your right thumb, yarn over, trade thumbs, and then you're going to pull it through that hole. Okay, change to your right thumb, yarn over, trade thumbs, and then pull through. Now what you're doing here when you trade thumbs, you can see what's happening. It's creating this little stitch here. This is called a chain stitch. Now what's happening is I'm holding it so that it creates tension. If you didn't hold it, what would happen is it's going to move all around. So okay, I hold it with this side. If you don't hold it with this side, you just can't pull it through. You need to create tension. This is why it's important to use one size up, to use your 6mm to start off with. Okay, so let's try this. And you can pull this pretty tight to this area. Remember, use the fatter part. Hold it with that thumb, yarn over, trade thumbs, and I'm pinching it with my forefinger and my thumb there. And then pull through the hole. All right, and so you can do this many times. What you're going to do, you're creating the foundation, which means that this is what all of the rest of your single crochet is going to be based off of. So see, I'm pulling around. Now, what am I doing with my left hand, you ask? So I am pinching, but you notice that these fingers are curled. So what I've got is I've got the yarn coming through my middle and forefinger, and then I curl my last 3 fingers around here. This creates tension. See, I can pull it, and it's enough where I can pull through. Like, see, I can keep pulling the yarn, but it's tight. And that's what we want. We want to create that tension. Now you can see where I stopped here because my tension's a little bit different than the rest. The good thing is that foundation chains are a lot of practice. So, doop, you can always undo it and start over. So, that's what I'm going to do. If you are going along, keep going and make a foundation chain of, let's say, well, you know what? We'll do a size thing. And I still haven't found my my cloth tape measures. So I'm going to have to use my, well, somewhere. I'm going to have to use my regular ruler. One moment. Let me find that. I actually have a lot of rulers because we use them in drawing. So, okay. So, got that. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and start again. So we're going to make our slip knot. So remember, we're going to pick up our yarn and just twist it, and that creates our loop. Now whichever side is on top, this side's on top, we're going to make another little loop, and we're going to pull it under, go under that hole. Grab both sides, put your finger in that loop there, bloop, and pull tight. Very easy. Okay, so we've got our slip knot. We're using the next size up. Take the fat part, and that's where we're going to tighten it. And you don't have to go like super tight. I mean, it should still be able to move. Okay. You can get your tail out of the way if you want to just hold it along the side of your hook. So I'm pinching this with my thumb to keep it in place. Yarn over. Remember, always come from behind. I'm going to trade pinches, and I'm going to pull it through. Pinch with my right hand, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. Pinch with my right hand, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. Pinch, yarn over, pinch, pull. Just like that. See how I'm holding this here? So it's letting a little bit go through, but it's enough where I can keep my tension. All right, so yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. Pinch, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. Okay, so we're gonna go until we get to 6 inches. This is what we're gonna do. And I realize that I'm switching back and forth between imperial and metric, so I apologize for that. I'm used to using imperial, but my hook sizes are in metric, and I actually prefer that because it's easier to, metric's probably just easier all the way around, but okay, you know, you do what you're taught, right? I mean, what else am I gonna do? I guess I gotta relearn, right? All right, so I'm getting out my cloth measuring tape is better for this, but I'm getting out my ruler because I can't find my cloth measuring tape. I only have about 6 cloth measuring tapes that are probably laying around here somewhere. Okay, so very loosely, you don't want to pull because yarn does have some elasticity. You don't want to pull. So we're going to start here at 0. And I'm a little bit farther than 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch that area here. I'm just doing 6 because that's where that's the size scarf that I want, let's say. Let's just say. I'll show you when we do patterns later. I'm going to show you how to read a pattern. And when we do this, I'm going to show you, like, it'll make a size recommendation. Okay. So we hold it up. There we go. That's right at 6. Okay, so we've got this. Now, because we're doing single crochet, we're going to add one more. All right, so we're going to add one more foundation. So pinch, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. Okay, now the reason we did that one extra is because that helps us turn, right? So it helps us, otherwise it would be very tight to try to go into the very next one. So we don't want that. So here's what I'm going to do. If you look, this is pulling through this loop right here. So we don't want to go through that loop. We want to skip it and go to the next one. All right. This is just for the single crochet. For double crochet, half double crochet, treble, all of the different crochet symbols, crochet stitches rather, you're going to go through different holes. In this particular case, you want to go through the second hole. Brendan. Okay, so we're skipping this one. Oh, and you know what? I need to trade hooks. Almost forgot that we were using the larger hook. So we're going to use the, go back to our regular 5mm. Just slip that in there. And you can pull tight. All right, so now we're going to go through the second hole. So skip that one. Go through this one. Oops, it's not wanting to go in. Yarn over. All right, well, before we get to the yarn over, I just want to show you what we've got here. So we've got our original loop that we went through, and we've got the hole that we went through. All right, so there should be 2 loops on there, or it'll look like 2. You can pinch that with your thumb. Yarn over, trade pinches. So notice we're not doing anything terribly different other than we just went through this hole rather than only having the one on there. And then you're going to pull through. Well, wait a minute. Now we still have 2 on here. So what we're going to do, trade pinches, yarn over. Now you're going to pull through both of them. Okay? So now we've got 1 again. So we're back to the beginning. So put your thumb on that. Now we need to find the next hole. And if you look, notice that this, if you kind of pull on this, you can see it's pulling on this one here. So we just skip that one and go to the next one. So we go through. So now we've got 2 on there again. So we'll pinch that and we'll yarn over. Now this is already right here, ready to be yarn over. So I'm saying yarn over to remind you of the step, but it's already right there. So we're going to pull that through that hole we went through. So now we've got 2 on there. So we'll pinch that, yarn over, and pull through both. And you can see what it's doing. You can see it's starting to create a little block there. Okay, so we'll go through the next hole. See how this is already there, ready to yarn over? So we'll just scoop that in and pull it through that hole. Okay, so we've got 2, yarn over, pull through both. All right, now my slack is getting loose, so I always try to keep a pretty good amount of slack, because when it starts getting tight, then your tension starts getting tight, and it can really make your piece look wonky, where you've got, you know, one side is very close together and the other side's very loose, so it can just cause all kinds of problems. So always keep a good amount of slack in your yarn. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm not keeping up with who has joined me in chat, but like I said, if you've got questions, please feel free to ask. All right. So notice that there's, okay, if you were to lay this down on its side, and hopefully it's not too hard to see, but notice there's little bumps there. There's a bump, 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 like that. Okay. So those bumps are your holes. So if you needed to count, like say it said, your instructions said chain 36. Okay, well, you would want to make sure that you had 36 there. What if you lost count? Well, that's when you can go back and you can count your bumps. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 18 bumps there. Now I've already done a few, so I'm not counting those. But anyway, that's how you would do it. All right, so let's go through the next hole. So you find that next bump that's not being stretched there. See, this one's being stretched. So you want to go to the next one. All right, it's already ready to yarn over. So you pull it through. Now I've got 2 on there. Pinch that, yarn over, and pull it through both. Go through the next hole, yarn over, pull it through. Now I've got 2. And see what we're making here? We've got this nice little crochet bit. All right, so we're gonna keep going. I'm not gonna talk it through. I mean, every once in a while I might, but we're gonna keep going. So I want you to practice this until we get to the end, and then I'm going to show you what to do for the next row, because this is our foundation. This is row 1, which is going into our foundation chain. It actually gets quite a bit easier after your first row. So your foundation chain doesn't count as row 1. What we're doing now is row 1. That's important to know for later when we take a look at patterns. All right, so I'm at the point of yarning over. I'm through both of the holes. Pull it through. Now I've got 2 on there, yarn over, pull through. Now every once in a while you're going to get a hole that's very tight, and that's why I suggested using the bigger size, because that way it keeps it loose. But if it is, you just got to kind of play with it a little bit. All right, let's see. I don't think I have any in here that are too tight. I think I kept everything pretty loose. If I get to one that is, I'll show you how to manipulate that. See, this one's a little bit tight. Okay, so you just find the hole and you kind of just got to force it through there, like, but sometimes I use my finger and I'll just pull it over the hook like that. Ooh, there's another one. I guess I had yeah, right here, this whole area right here, I had much tighter tension. So all of these holes are a little bit small. You want to try to make sure too that you're going just into the top. See, there's like this kind of crisscross that's going on. You want to just go into the top part of it. So that's something to look for. See how it's like pulling up there? You want just that top part. Oops. I'm not through the tight part yet. But as you can see, even though I've been doing this for a very long time, especially talking, makes me kind of lose track. So it's easy to get off on your attention at the very beginning, even if you've been doing it for a while. So that's why I just recommend always using a slightly bigger hook. Now, if you don't have a bigger hook, that's okay. You just want to really try to be loose about it when you're doing that first foundation chain and not pulling all the way tight to your hook. Now, I'm almost through. Now I've gotten to the part where it's a little bigger, so it's easier. Now this is where counting can really help, because sometimes it's easy to miss that last one, but there is one more there. All right, so this is where you could go across and you could count. Now, what's cool is that posts have been created. So what a post is a post are like these little, it's harder to see. Let me see. I've got this that I made earlier. You can see it in this. Each one of these like little things is a post. Now this I think was a double crochet. That's why you can see them a lot better. But so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see all of those. Those are all called posts. And sometimes your pattern will call for using the post. So that's a good thing to know. All right. So with single crochet, your post is considerably smaller. But you can still count, and you can also count if you look at the top. Here, let me take this out here. I always just give it some slack before I take it out. That way I don't accidentally pull my loop through. All right, so if you look at the top, see how it creates this, V here? See that little V that's created? That's what you're counting. So you could count those and see how many you have. There is one on the end here. It's hidden, but it's on the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21. So I have 21. This is a good number to know because I want to make sure that I have 21 for every row. All right, so let's get our hook back, and I moved my Kleenex, and that's not cool, so I got to use my paper towels from my painting. Raw news. Okay, so pretty sure there's some fun allergies about to come. All right, so we've gotten to the end of our row. Now here's the thing. If we are working right-handed, you need to be able to turn this because you always want to be working right to left. Of course, if you were working left-handed, you would be working left to right. We need to be able to turn this, but if we just turn it like this, it twists a little bit. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, let's see, let's get some slack. You're going to do a chain stitch. Now, at the very beginning, when we created our foundation chain, we were making a chain stitch. So remember, all you do, pinch, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through, just like that. That's your chain stitch. Now you can turn it and it's not going to be twisty. Okay, so similar to what we did before, except this time the hole is much easier to see. So you've got that V, you're going through the V, and you can see right here, let's see, got it pretty tight. You can see that hole that's created there with the V. See, there's the V, there's the hole that's created. So that's what we're going through. Now you skip this very first one, because we just made that. The first one is hardly anything. It's actually coming off. Like you can, if you see that very first one there, there's not even really a hole there. So there's not anything to go through. See how it's coming off the side a little bit? You want to go to the first visible hole that you see. So like if you pull on this, see, you can actually see that first visible hole. My camera's trying to automatically focus here. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to go through that hole. So I'm pinching. We're going to go through that hole, both sides of the V. Now there are some times when a pattern will call for going through only one of these. That would be called the front loop or the back loop. In this case, most of the time you're going to go through both unless it says something different. All right, so we're going to yarn over, pull through, and now we've got 2 on there. So we're going to pinch, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. So notice that was exactly the same. So all of this is just your single crochet. So we're going to go through the next hole. So go through there, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, trade pinches, and pull through there. All right, and that's it. And you just keep going. Now it should be considerably easier. Oop, and you know what I just realized? I was using my tail. This happens. I wasn't using my working yarn. So sometimes your tail will get in the way. I'm just going to hold that against my hook, which is where it should have been in the first place. Let's try this again. So we're going to go through that hole, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, pull through both holes. It's only a problem for the first couple of rows because, of course, after a while it's going to be kind of at the bottom, so it's not in the way. Push through the hole. All right, through the hole, yarn over, pull through. Got 2 on there. Yarn over again, pull through both. Very, very simple. Any questions? Now, I did leave my tail a little bit long here, and sometimes you need to leave a longer tail. It depends on what the instructions tell you to do. I generally don't leave too long of a tail, maybe about 6 inches, just in case I need it for something, like fringe or, you know, if you need it to like sew up a side. But most of the time I don't leave too long of a tail just because the instructions will usually tell you. And you'll get into a rhythm. This is my favorite thing about crochet, is you get into a rhythm. Knitting too has this. And it becomes very mindful. It becomes very meditative activity. Because you can, and you know, I feel like it's easier with knitting. Oh, my tension's getting a little bit. So you want to loosen that up. I feel with knitting, it's probably a little easier to do this. Crochet, I feel like I've got to look. But I don't mind that because it actually causes me to be more mindful by looking at it, because then I'm not paying attention to anything else. Knitting, I can sit there and like watch, you know, television or something like that while I'm doing it. But crochet, I can have the television on, but I'm pretty much watching what I'm doing here. So it's a lot more mindful, in my opinion. pinch. I've got 2 on there, so I'm going to pinch, yarn over, trade pinches, pull through. All the while, I'm keeping my fingers around here and pulling it through. All right, now I'm coming to my end. Now here's the thing, this very last stitch is extremely difficult to see. If you don't go through it, what's going to happen is it's going to gradually get more narrow. This is what happened to my friend who sent it to me, sent me the picture. This first one maybe isn't so hard, but it gets progressively harder. Sometimes it goes down the side. So you want to make sure that you find all of the V's. So there actually is a V here. You can see the 2 sides of the stitch. So you just want to make sure you go through both. Now the ends are usually a little harder to push through. They're just tighter in general. So I've got that through. Pull through both. And we're at the end. So now we have this nice little row here. Now you'll notice that it's kind of twirling a little bit. That's okay. That's just tension. And that's going to happen. It will actually work itself out. All right. So we need to turn it. So what do? We're going to do a chain stitch. So yarn over, trade pinches, pull through, turn. Okay. So I'm going to set this down because I want to show you, you can continue practicing this, but I want to show you a pattern first, and then we can do practice and maybe chat if anybody is up for that. So I'm going to set this down and I'm going to pull up a pattern that I found online. Now, what my search terms I put in were, I think I put in easy single crochet pattern, and I think maybe I put in PDF. I didn't actually find a PDF. Those are harder to find. I do recommend that there's an app. The app itself, I think, is called Stitch to Go. It's like stitch the number 2 and go. But it is part of a social networking site called Ravelry, and I highly recommend joining Ravelry. You can find all kinds of amazing free patterns on there. There's really amazing paid patterns all over the world. You will find that there is some differences in the language. So, for example, in the United States, we call, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when I get into those specific stitches, but what we call a double crochet, or no, what we call a half crochet, I think is called a double crochet, like in the UK, I think. Triple is what we call double. So it can get a little bit confusing if you're looking at a pattern that's from another country, because they may use different terms. Sometimes they use completely different language, like it might be in Swedish. I actually found a pattern I really liked for a little Hercule Poirot amigurumi. If you don't remember, hang on. If you don't remember, amigurumi is when you create like a little, oops, he's got some string. So this is Louis. He's a little lobster that I made. I like Louis. Anyway, so amigurumi are like these little animals that are stuffed. So these were my favorite part to make. His little things there. I guess they're legs. I don't know. But anyway, I found a Hercule Poirot. I'm a big Hercule Poirot fan, and I found a little amigurumi like doll, Hercule Poirot doll, but it was in Swedish, so I had to look up, or yeah, it was Swedish. I had to think about that for a minute, but yeah, I had to actually look up Swedish crochet terms and translate. And it was very difficult, but I did it. I transposed the entire thing into English, and it wasn't even that hard of a pattern. So it's possible. You just have to be aware of the fact it does tell you what country it comes from usually. So that gives you an indicator. Okay, I found a pattern. Let's look at it. All right. So hopefully you can see this okay. You can see my little cheesy mouse. Yes, I know it's very 90s. I don't care. I like it. I'm cheesy. Okay, so this is for a baby blanket pattern. I just was trying to find something very simple for us to look at. So the first thing is you look at the materials. And here you've got, here's the materials here. So you've got, it tells you a size P crochet hook. Now, P is rather large. Let's see, I have a P around here somewhere. Let me see. I'm going to get it out so I can show you. Okay, there we go. Sorry. This is a size P. So compared to what we were using, you can see how much bigger that is. This is an H, this is a P. So P is also 11.5 millimeters is the, all right. So now let's get back to our pattern. All right, so it was a size P crochet hook. Any bulky weight yarn, category 5. So they give you the category, and remember the one that we're using right now is a category 4. So you would go one size up from that to the next size up, which is bulky. And then it says you can also choose 2 strands of worsted weight, which is what we're using. So you could actually just pull in 2 different skeins of the yarn that we're using to start off with, and that would be okay. Your tape measure and a tapestry needle. You do not need the tapestry needle. I'm going to show you how to weave in your ends without a tapestry needle. But for some people, they find it easier to use the needle. I personally think it doesn't matter. I think it's just like an extra step. But if you want it, there you go. Tapestry needles have very large eyes, and so and they have blunter ends, so they don't poke into things. Okay. Now, it has information about the gauge. Usually there is something here that will say like 4 inches by 4 inches, and it will tell you like it'll actually give you measurements. So it'll say of like your stitches in your rows. So it might say 18 stitches and 24 rows equals 4 by 4 or 10 by 10 centimeters. This says it doesn't have a gauge for this project, probably because it's a blanket. So what you're doing is you're actually measuring the size of the blanket rather than gauging it, rather than trying to get your tension to be a certain amount. Okay. So this starts off saying that instead of telling you how many chains to make, hold on. Excuse me, sneeze came on. Instead of telling you how many chains, it actually tells you a measurement. This says 36 inches. Or the size that you would like the width of your blanket. Now, baby blankets typically are 36 inches. That is a standard size for baby blankets. So I would probably just stick with the 36 inches. But remember, what you have to do is measure that. And this is where a cloth tape measure is better, because 36 inches is quite a bit longer than a ruler. So 3 times, in fact. So you would want your tape measure so that you could measure that. All right. Now, remember to make 1 more chain. See, it tells you that here. Make 1 more chain past the 36 inches, just like I told you earlier. You go to 36 inches and then make 1 more. So for row 1, it says SC into the second CH from the hook and in each CH across to end. What that means is single crochet into the second chain from the hook and in each chain across to end. So like I said, remember we skipped that first one and go into the second one. So this is saying go into the second chain from the hook. And then you're going to single crochet in every single chain going across. That's what that means. So that's exactly what I just showed you. Now, row 2. They already say row 2 before they have you do the chain 1. But remember, you chain 1 and turn. It's just like I told you. Then you're going to single crochet in each single crochet across two ends. So it says SC in each SC across two ends. I wonder if I can, there. Ha. That's better. Okay. Ha. Sorry about that, guys. Now we can read. Okay. So here's where we are. Row 2. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. We single crochet in every single crochet across to the end. So remember, the first time you're just going through the chains. The second row is where you start going into that V, that single crochet that you've already made. Then it says rep row 2. So repeat row 2 until your piece measures 36 inches or your desired length. So a standard baby blanket is a square, 36 by 36. So you basically would just keep single crocheting all the way to the end. And you do the exact same thing. You go all the way to your end, you chain 1 and turn. Single crochet all the way to the end, chain 1 and then turn. You're just going to repeat row 2 over and over again. Now, it says that you're going to go to whatever length you want. So you can go to 36 inches or you can go longer. And then it says fasten off. And I'm going to show you how to do that here. Sorry, I didn't mean to highlight that way. Fasten off. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then weave in your ends using the tapestry needle. Okay, I'm going to get off of this pattern. Here, oh, real quick, since I made it bigger, I'm going to show you the materials so you can see that at the bigger size. And see, she actually has a thing on here, Ravelry. We can follow her. So we could actually be friends with her on Ravelry. I don't know if I have very many friends on there. I mostly just use it for patterns. But I have a few, you know. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to finish this off. First of all, we're going to actually do one more row because I want to give it a little bit of length. And I want to finish it off on the same side as my tail. Actually, I don't want to finish it off on the same side as my tail. Yeah, I want to finish. I want to do it on the opposite side. Okay, so we're just going to end here. I had already chained 1, so I'm going to pull that out. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to pull out a little bit. Let's pretend we made a mistake somewhere. Like, oops. Well, that's where I made my mistake. So you pull out to where you made the mistake, and then you just pick up going in through the next hole. That's how easy it is to restart with crochet. So I'm going to go through, yarn over again, pull through both. Go through, yarn over. Got 2 on there. So we're going to go all the way across, and I'm going to show you. So what I was demonstrating right there was just what happens if you make a mistake, how easy it is to go back to it. You can't do that in knitting. I mean, I guess you could, but it's not that easy. You can go backwards, but it's definitely not that easy. I don't recommend doing it because you can really mess yourself up, especially if you're using any kind of uncomplicated pattern. That's the other thing I think I like about crochet. You can put it down and pick it up again. With knitting, every time I've put something down, if I pick it up like too long later, like maybe, I mean, sometimes it's like a month or so later, sometimes it's several years, it's hard to figure out where you are and what you've done. Whereas with crochet, like I said, you can just undo to a certain point where you know exactly how it started and then just go from there. All right, so remember this last one we want to make sure we get. It's a little bit tighter, so we're going to use our finger. Yarn over, pull through. All right. Yarn over again, pull through both. Now we're not going to chain. We're just going to leave this here. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do to finish off and weave in your ends. So we're going to cut. Like I said, I usually cut about 6 inches unless it tells me otherwise. We're going to yarn over, pull through, and pull all the way through. And that makes a little knot. You can tighten that a little bit. Now to weave in, there's a couple things you can do. I like to go a smaller size. You do not have to, but I like to go a smaller size. So I'm going to grab one and show you. It's easier. So this is a 5, so I'm going to grab a 4. I like just going one size up, one size down. It's handy that way. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is something called weaving in our ends. So we are going to go into our crochet as if we were crocheting, and we're going to hook the you can bring it around the back if you want, but we're going to hook the yarn and just bring it all the way through. Now we'll go into the next one, but we're going to come from the opposite side. I'm going to hook it and bring it all the way through. Now we're going to come in from this side. Now I do this about 4 times, so I'm on number 3. So I'm going to do this about 4 times. I'm coming in from the opposite side. I'm going to pull it through. Then I stretch it a little bit just to make sure that this is nice and loose and it's not, you know, pulling this super tight like that. You want to stretch it and make sure it's loose. Then I'm going to go back into number 3 and pull it through. I'm going to basically double back on myself. And what this does is that next time it's stretched, because it's doubling back on itself, it won't stretch any farther than where that is. It just creates enough of a stop. So when you do that, then you can just, I cut it pretty close. Ta-da! Now that might come loose. It's possible that it might stretch just a little bit, but it shouldn't stretch too much. So let's do the same with this other side. So I'm going to go through and pull this through. Then I'm going to come through the back. Pull it through the back, all the way through. Go to the next one, coming through the front. When you come through the front, it's not as tight. All right. Come through the back. Now remember, we're going into the chain here. So there's only one loop. It's not quite as tight as when we go through the top part. So I'm going to go ahead and do a few extra. I'm going to actually, instead of just doing 4, I'm going to do 6. Now see, you didn't need a tapestry needle for this. There's no need to thread a needle and all kinds of stuff. All right, so we've done 6. I'm going to come through. I'm going to go back a hole. Okay, yarn over, pull through. Come from behind. Oops, it's hard to get in there. Okay, there we go. Pull through. We're going all the way back to the beginning. Everybody's so quiet today. That's good. I hope that means that you're crocheting so you can't type. All right. So I'm going to trim that. Now sometimes you need your, you know, if I didn't want to weave in, let's say I wanted to connect these, you know, I wanted to make a little bracelet. What I would have skipped doing the weaving in, and I would have put these together. I usually turn it inside out. Put these together. Oh, it's so tight. Hold on. There we go. Okay. And what I'm going to do is something called a ladder stitch. Oops, that didn't even make it through both holes. Hang on. Okay. Let's pull that through. All right, so ladder stitch is just going to go, it's going to loop around. So what we're going to do, it's going to come over to this side. Now this isn't very much. We don't have very much here because I only did a couple rows, but you go into your next row, the side of your next row, and pull this through both holes. And then we'll try to do one more. Let's get it into this, the top of the single crochet there. So it comes around to the other side. So you just, the ladder stitch, you're coming in from the same side every time. So we'll pull that through now. Ah, sorry, my hair is like itching right at the end of my nose. Okay. Now, to finish this off here, what I usually do, see if I can find it. There we go. What I usually do is I attach it to itself. So see, this is the string. So let's get your hook in there. And we're just going to pull this through. And then what I do, I like to knot it because I want it to be secure, especially depending on what it is that you're making. But like, let's say I was making this a little bracelet. Well, so see, I left a loop here and I'm going to actually pull it through again. That will knot it. You know, this is going to be stretched and worn a lot and might get washed and things like that. So I want to make sure it's pretty secure. So I'm actually going to give it a knot. Then you can weave it in. Then you can weave in your ends. So let's see. Let's weave it in this way. So I'm going to pull it through. Come through the other side. Pull it through. Now because we're doing it in the crochet part and not the foundation chain part, we only have to go 4. So I'm going to bring it back. One more. And the tighter it is, the better, because that means that it's going to stay. So see now, I don't know, there's like extra bits of something there. Excuse me. Okay, so now I've got this thing. Now I didn't make this long enough to be a bracelet, so this could be like a kid bracelet. So this could probably fit around a kid. This isn't long enough for me. I mean, I could make it work. Hold on. Let's just force it. Let's just force the matter because, you know, why not? So there. And I could just like leave this on. You know, shower with it on, everything. Swim with it. So there we go. Bracelet. I'm not going to be wearing this as a bracelet. But you could. That's the thing. You can make a lot of things with crochet and you can get creative with it. Okay. So what I want you to do, I want you to practice. Next week, we are going to be, let's see. I'm going to actually pull up my schedule. If you go out, I do want to show you guys real quick. Hold on. Let me pull this, see if you can see this. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I can see just my Discord. I forgot about that. I'm not sure why that's not showing up. Well, okay, hang on. Sorry, guys. Trying to figure out how to work OBS here. Okay. So this is my Discord. So you can see this is my crochet channel. And I want you to be able to come in here. I've got crochet projects here. This is my class calendar. This is always going to have a link to my calendar. So let's pull this up. So this is my calendar. Oh, hi, BP. How are you doing? I don't know how long you've been on, but I'm sure you've been cracking up plenty at the things I have to say. Okay. So let's see. This is my class calendar. You'll see my drawing and painting classes here. We're doing a frog and a rooster this week. So next week I've got my crochet class. And it says we're going to continue working on the single crochet, and then we're going to learn something called hyperbolic crochet. Let's see, that's difficult to see, but you can see that there. Hyperbolic crochet. Guys, notice the words in here. Math, crochet math, hyperbolic crochet. This is real math, like legitimate real math. So I'm pretty excited. Oop, one more. Nope. There we go. I'm pretty excited about the hyperbolic. I want to show you guys what that means is that we are going to be learning increases and decreases. And in fact, I'm really, hang on, because I feel like that's too early. I may have to switch my classes up because, let me see, if I was supposed to be teaching increases and decreases today. Oh, I was. Ha! Okay, so who's got some time? I'm going to teach you how to do increases and decreases today because apparently that was on the agenda and I forgot. This is important because in order to do hyperbolic crochet, you have to know how to do an increase. Like absolutely you have to. So practice. This is practice, guys. All right, so let's make our, let's get out our bigger hook. Let's make our knot here. Okay, so slip knot. Whatever's on top, you're gonna make your little pinch, bring it to the bottom of that hole, and then you're gonna pull your sides down. Doot. Okay. All right, so we are just going to chain 11. So, because I want to make this short, so 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so because I did 11, then that means that there's really going to be 10 stitches there. Now, if you did not finish off your piece like I did, you didn't want to do that, then you can just keep going on this and then undo it later. All right, so remember we're skipping that first hole. We're going into the second hole from the hook. So we're going to go in there. I want to just go ahead and get our first row done. I don't want to be trying to do increases and decreases right on the first row. So let's just get our crochet done. So through the hole, yarn over, bring it in. You've got both on there, yarn over, pull through both. So we're just doing our regular single crochet, nothing fancy. All right. Thank you for being patient with me. And I'm so glad I went out to my calendar and realized I was supposed to teach more today than I apparently set aside. I think what happened is originally I wasn't going to teach the single crochet again on the second day. I think I chose to do that on that first lesson because I knew that not everybody would have their supplies. So, yikes, that's what I get. Okay, so I've got my little piece here. Remember to start your next one, you've got to chain 1 to turn it. So chain 1 and then turn. All right, so we want to increase. We're going to start by increasing. So we skip that very first one, the one that's kind of hanging off there. Go in and pull through. Go ahead and do your first single crochet. Now, see that hole? It's nice and big there. We're going to go through the same hole. yarn over, pull through. So now I've got 2 in that hole. I've got 2 stitches in that same hole. Now you can get a bunch of stitches, like you could increase by 3 or by 4. We're not going to do that. There's a different kind of stitch. There's bobble stitches and fun stitches you can do by going into the same hole. We're not going to do that. So we're going to increase all the way across. So you go in the second hole there, or the next one rather than. Go ahead and do your single crochet. Now go back into that exact same hole. Should I be saying loop rather than hole? Do you think, BP? Might be more appropriate. All right. So go into the loop. It is a hole though. I don't know. I feel like I need to continue with the same terminology. Okay, go in here. So I'm going in here again. And if you ever lose track, you can go back and you can count. You can see how many are in each one. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yep. All right. So we're going to do this all the way across. So there's number 1. There's number 2. Go to the next one. There's number 1. Number 2. Man, the crochet lessons are actually quite a bit shorter than my drawing lessons. Because the other day was just an hour or so, I think. I think I ended up going a little longer. Last one. Now remember, this guy is kind of hard to see, but if you look, there is that V there. So you might have to use your fingers there and kind of force it through. Okay. Now, once you do it the first time, it's going to be a little bit bigger, so you can go ahead and get in there. Some people don't do an increase at the very end, but I'm going to. So look how this is already turning. That's hyperbolic. Look at that. I love hyperbolic so much. Okay. Now we're going to decrease. So here's what we do. So first of all, we have to chain 1, turn, just like normal. And like, look at what this is doing. Isn't that pretty? Okay. So we're going to go through, we're skipping this first one, going through this hole. Pull through. Now, I'm going to yarn over. I'm only going to pull through the first one. I'm not going to pull through that second one. Go to your next hole, hole number 2. Pull through. Now I've got 3 on there. Yarn over. And you're going to pull through the first one and then pull through all 3. So go in number 1 here, pull through just the first one. Go in the second one. Actually, I feel like, hang on. I think I'm supposed to pull through all 3 here. Let me see. Let me see what this looks like. Nope, I was right before. I don't want to make a double crochet. That's what I'm worried about doing. I think I am. Hang on. I think I'm making a double crochet. It gets a little bit messy. All right, I'm starting over. Go through once, pull through. I know you just pulled through the first one here. Then you go through your second one. Okay, you pull through all 3 stitches. So what that does is it creates 1 V for 2 holes. So please ignore my first instructions. Sorry about that. I usually do increases and decreases with double crochet. So that's my excuse, is that I'm used to doing it with double crochet, which is a little different. So I'm going through the hole, pulling through. I've got 2 on there, so I'm only going to pull through the first one, go through the next hole, pull through. Now I've got 3 on there. I'm going to pull through all 3. Yep, that's it. That's the ticket. So go through, pull through just the first one, go through again, pull through all three. Just going to keep going. So just the first one. Oops. That one was excited. He wanted to go through both. Okay. Go through the second one, pull through all three. Now this is going to start curving in. Pull through just the first one, go into your next hole, pull through all three. Go through just the first one, go through the next hole, pull through all three. Hopefully everybody's getting this. You're going to see what's going to happen. It's going to start curling in on itself. Just through the first one. Now because I had 10, hopefully it should be even. All right, so I'm going to do one. This is the last bit, the last little bit. Go into my very last one there and pull through all three. And you can see it's like it got bigger, and if I kept doing this, what it's going to do is it's going to create these like undulating rows where it curves in on itself because it got bigger and then smaller again. So we doubled it in the second row, and we're tripling it in the, I mean, not tripling it. We're going back down to regular size, rather. We're decreasing. So technically, it should bulge out. Let's see. If we set it down, it should bulge out in the middle. It creates funky shapes. This is normally way too close. You would never increase and decrease this close together. Like normally when you see increases is either when you're doing hyperbolic crochet or when you are doing in the round. So I'm not going to teach that just yet. In the round I think is not for, let's see, I can look. I think that will not be until May. Well, it would have to be because next week is the last. Seriously? I closed my tab. Hang on. Okay. Let's see. May. Apparently I'm not teaching until after I teach you double crochet. So I'm going to be teaching you double crochet first before teaching you to crochet in the round. And I probably had a really good reason for that. And that reason is that double crochet is the much easier stitch. Single crochet, as you can see, it's not like it's difficult to do, but it's difficult to manipulate. I mean, everything's so small. So it's just hard to do anything with it. It is good for things like baby blankets and stuff like that, but because it's a close stitch, you know, it's very tight. But double crochet is a lot easier in general to work with. So we're going to learn that first, and then I'll show you how to crochet in the round. But anyway, so this is it. So to increase, you just go into the same hole and do your second crochet. To decrease, when you do your crochet, you only pull through the first one, go ahead and go into your second hole, and then pull through all three, and that will create one stitch. So I should have 10 stitches. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10. That is how many I should have. All right. So that is actually it. Now we are really done. So I want you to practice. You can practice your increases and decreases, but next week we are going to be doing a lot of increases. Hyperbolic crochet is almost all increases, which is why it's exponential. That's why it's hyperbolic. So we are going to be doing a lot of practice with the increases. So, you know, if you want to just practice your single crochet, that's what I recommend you doing. We'll practice the other stuff at a different time. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a drawing class this Friday. I'm doing a very new thing, which is steampunk style drawing. It's a very mechanical, stylized, illustrative form of drawing. So that's very new and uncomfortable for me as an artist because that is not my normal style. So it should be a pretty fun class because we're kind of learning together to a certain extent. So Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, there will be a drawing class. I highly recommend that you come. All you need is pencil and paper. That is it. Just a number 2 pencil is fine. So have a fantastic week, and thank you for joining me today.